Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. It's great to see you again. And for those of you that are new, it's great to see you. Today's webinar is brought to you today by MCSC Women's Business Center. We're a nonprofit business center serving entrepreneurs in SLO, Kern, and Monterey counties. We offer no-cost one-on-one business consulting with professionals in finance, marketing, e-commerce, and management. We also offer consulting on COVID-19 resources and reopening requirements. Our contact information is on the screen, and I will put it in the chat box in a little bit. I'd like to thank Gina Cinardo for presenting today. Gina is a Women's Business Center success story. After completing her entrepreneurial training course, she launched her business and is a testament to the power of women entrepreneurs. She's the owner of Ginici Studios, a photography studio that specializes in headshots, personal branding, and commercial photography. Her passion is to tell a story through designs and images that effectively convey your business's message to your customers. She also helps businesses set up starter websites in WordPress and develop a social media presence. You're in for a treat today. So before we get started, I'd just like to do some basic housekeeping. Please limit your distractions and mute your phone. We will be taking questions through the chat box. We'll also be asking you to participate through the chat box. So if there's anything you want to ask or anything you want to add, please do that in the chat box. If you'd like everyone to see it, please make sure you choose that option. This webinar is being recorded and the link will be provided once the recording is processed. So we have a quick poll to find out how you heard about us. So I'm going to launch that poll. Please take 30 seconds to answer. Looks like most everybody saw us on the newsletter this time.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, thank you everybody. 70% from the newsletter and 10% from Facebook. All right, so without further ado, I would like to give you Gina.
Well, thank you for giving me to them. Hi, everybody. My name is Gina Cinardo, and that was a really nice introduction. I think you've done this several times before, Barbara. You're getting to be a pro at this. All right, I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see. I actually want to share everything because I want to do a video later, but let's see if this works here. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody for joining us. I'm excited to tell you about how to create a compelling brand narrative. If any of you have heard my presentations before, I go into a lot of depth about how to develop a brilliant brand. There's going to be a little bit on branding in here, and I'm going to share some of my favorite formulas and tips on how to create a great narrative. So thank you again for joining me. A little bit about me and my history. I have a long history of obviously photography because I got my degree in fine art photography, but just doing marketing for people because I was also a graphic designer when I was in college. And through college and after college, I was working for an offset printer, and being a graphic designer, you really have to understand the message that you're putting out there. And because I'm such a visual person and I love photography, to me, it was a lot about not just the story, but how to connect the story with the picture and the narrative that goes along with it. Anyway, so on that note, we're going to go ahead and start. And so to begin with, a great brand story. There are many elements to a great brand story. And the first one makes your brand more memorable. That is pretty much one of the main things. And a good story is simply more memorable than facts. In fact, 5% of people will remember individual statistics as opposed to 60% who actually will remember the full story and the story itself. And it doesn't have to be all the details of the story. It can be the simple premise of the story, which is what they remember, but hey, that is then ingrained in their consciousness about your brand, and that's what branding really is. And so a good story also emotionally audience. You know, you want them to respond and take action. So this is kind of where the key is, and I'm going to explain this in a lot more detail later about the emotional connections that we make. It also showcases your uniqueness. Having a really unique story, having a story relevant to who you are and what your brand is and what your clients are going through, that's what makes you unique. Even if you have competitors who do exactly the same thing you do, have a completely different take on it, and they're going to have a much more unique story in their world, and they might even have a different kind of client that they prefer working with. So that's one thing that's really, really great about really defining your brand and then sharing your brand story. So it also develops brand loyalty, and brands with a clear identity and narrative form more meaningful connections that result in truly devoted fans. So when you really put your brand out there and you put your story out there, you're going to get a lot more engagement, and you're going to get a lot more followers, and they're going to become brand ambassadors for you. So they're actually going to help you market your business, which is really, really awesome. If you can tell a great story and they love it, that's what's going to automatically happen. And it also maximizes your visibility. So when you've taken the time to think through your narrative, to create simple, relevant messaging that you repeat over and over, you're basically setting your brand up to become immersed in the public consciousness. And so this is what ideally we want to do, like Kleenex. All you have to do is say that, and you know exactly what it means. And not that I need one or anything, but that's just what came to my mind. Okay, so let's see a couple of brands here. So we have Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm is there, Nike, Just Do It, Bounty, Clicker Picker Upper, M&M's, melts in your mouth and not in your hands. Apple, Think Different, MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. So all of these jingles have been basically immersed in our consciousness. We know these. I didn't even have to say MasterCard. I could just say the jingle or the tagline or in this case, a slogan. And there you have it. You know exactly what we're talking about. And just to kind of clarify a little bit the difference between a slogan and a tagline. A slogan encompasses a company's mission, what it stands for, and even how it's helping customers in an individual campaign. Whereas a tagline is a little bit more short. It's a catchy saying that evokes an image of your brand in the minds of your customers. There's no right or wrong. You don't have to have both. And a lot of times your tagline also is a value statement, like Think Different with Apple. For certain, that's about innovation and uniqueness, and so that's perfect tagline for them. So that's kind of what that means. And I wanted you to just kind of see that there's a little bit of a difference, because some people really put more thought into what the actual message is instead of just a three-word saying or something like that. So to begin with, the first thing we need to do and how we market our business is to think about the different kinds of marketing that there are. So there are two kinds of marketing. There's push marketing, which is also known as direct marketing, and is a form of general advertising. So basically anything you put in front of your audience to get their attention is what push marketing is. And so this could be newspaper advertising or magazine advertising or any kind of publication that you would put an ad in. It could also be Facebook advertising. It could also be radio and TV advertising. It could be any kind of printed marketing, such as flyers or postcards that you send out in mailers, or in this case, I have a sample of door hangers, rack cards. So anything that's printed that you hand out or put on counters somewhere is another form of push marketing. And it basically is saying, here I am, check me out. And then of course, Google AdWords is a big one. Most of the time we use these in some form or another, but if you're only using push marketing, you're kind of limiting yourself, because the other form of marketing is called pull marketing. And pull marketing is the process of drawing in your customers the goal is to create loyal customers. This is content marketing. And content marketing is newsletters, e-newsletters, any form of email marketing, really. It could be a promotion, it could be continual stories, it could be anything that you're sending your clients in an email on a regular basis. It could be blogging, and so a lot of times when we blog, we'll use email marketing in conjunction with that. So you blog stories continuously, but you have to send people to your blog. And great ways to send people to your blog is to use social media marketing, in which case you're going to post and have people come back to your website. And email marketing also can be a continuation of the stories that will end up going back to your website. Ultimately, your website is going to be the doorway and entrance into your business. And so if you use content marketing, you're going to always inevitably bring them back to your website, because your website is going to be the platform that converts your customers into some form of lead, or let's say converts your visitors into some form of lead or a customer. That's a better way to say it. So with that, you really need to also understand the steps. Okay, you understand the first step of creating a compelling brand narrative, which is your customer. You really need to understand your customer. So I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so the first step in knowing your customer is to really profile them. So keep this in mind. We relate to our customers because we have gone through the same journeys they have. We picked our business, whatever it is, or service. We sell a product, we've developed a product, but we sell a product that we love because of some reason. Like we understand what the problem is because we also searched for the problem at one point or another. And so we are very much like our customers. And in this case, when you profile them, you have to take all of this in consideration, not just the demographics. Of course, the demographics are great because you need to understand, who the age, the sex, the income, the geolocation, their education, and all that stuff. And even the primary reason that primary problem that your customer is looking for. So for example, like a wedding photographer is obviously looking for people who are getting married. So that would be the most obvious. But then we also have psychographics. And psychographics are the general habits or hobbies, their spending habits, their values, could also be their personality characteristics, their lifestyle, maybe political affiliations, whatever it is relating to your business is really important to note down and to really detail. Behavioral factors are also a really big consideration. So let's say certain beliefs and perceptions that motivate them to do specific things. These may be the things that they struggle with the most and or cause emotional anguish. Or it could be the things that they want to feel joy and pleasure so that they can escape from their normal reality. Obviously, everybody's behavioral factors are going to be totally different, but it also could be environmental factors, and this could be maybe a stage of life they're in, or it could be the things they want, it could be their social status, or it could be cultural factors. So if your business is really catered more towards the Latino community, then you have to consider their cultural identity and their and how they think. So moving on, what we actually do for our clients is we solve a problem. So the resolution to the problem is something that you really need to figure that out. You have to really write that out. So what does your product or service solve? And then what immediate result will they get from your product or service? And then finally, what value proposition differentiates you from your competitor? So customers don't buy products or services, they really do buy solutions. And so you're when you're also figuring out what you solve, you also want to give your customer really to give them once you've solved it and in the act of solving. Prospects why you should do business with them and how you are different from your competitors. And it also makes the benefits of your products or services clear the moment they see it. So this is why it's really important to have a value proposition. I'm going to go in a little bit more detail about that a little bit later, but keep in mind, this is also all a part of your narrative. So this is why you have to understand your customer, because once you really identify these clearly and concisely, it's easier to put those things into a story. So let's imagine, for example, a wellness coach that specializes in helping people lose weight who struggle with symptoms of diabetes. The problem they solve is losing weight, which in turn alleviates the symptoms of diabetes. The immediate result might be more energy or relief that they don't have to give up their favorite foods to live a healthier lifestyle. And therefore, their value proposition could be something simple like lose weight, feel great, and never give up the foods you love. I'm sure somebody's actually using that, who knows? But I just made that up. Okay, anyway, we're going to go on to now the second most important thing in developing your brand narratives is understanding your brand and what your brand actually means. So successful brands, let's talk about this for a little bit. So successful brands really, really focus on the experience they give their customers. So this is something that is almost the primary purpose of defining what your brand is, and I'm going to go into more detail about this, but is really focusing on what they're going to feel and the experience that you give them. So really successful brand knows their audience and knows those touch points, those things that make them emotional, that really connect with them. There's also a clear promise, just like I said about the value proposition, of how they're going to deliver that service to you or that product to you. There's also a unique proposition, which differentiates you from your competitors. There's consistency, so you're not changing your messages all the time. You're keeping there's that consistency there and that consistent feeling that you're giving your customers. It tells a really, really good story. It's very engaging. People are wanting to be a part of the story. They will comment on your comments. They'll comment on your stories. And so you get a lot of engagement. That means that you definitely know that you're telling a really good story. And it's very authentic, because when you think all of this through, it's all of you. It's all that you have been working towards, and it's your unique perspective of you and your business and what you offer. So you have to really know that you're a great brand. And a great brand, well, you know, a great brand, understand the meaning of your brand and what it stands for is like absolutely critical. So if you are a great brand and you can speak your brand just effortlessly, then you've totally found your voice and you've already totally found your narrative. So if you really understand what it means, it's actually easier to speak that way than just being a business that offers these products and services. So the first thing you want to really identify are the characteristics that make up the essence of the brand. And so your characteristics, and also what does your brand stand behind? So what are the values behind your brand? So the obvious would be that it would be the differentiation between whether you're a corporate brand or a professional or corporate brand, or say a personal brand, or a personable brand, or maybe you're a fun brand as opposed to a serious brand, or maybe you're innovative instead of scientific. You know, so there's differentiations you want to make that are pretty obvious to your customer, but also you can develop a persona of your brand that it encapsulates your own characteristics and values. And so that is what makes you unique to your business, using those characteristics and values. And that's what's going to be the most different you someone else that does exactly what you do. That's what's going to make you totally unique. So this is something that I help people with, but you can really do this yourself. It just takes some time, but you don't also want to totally go crazy and have a bazillion characteristics. You really just want to refine it. Like this is, create this persona that you could almost state in one sentence. So, and then what is your brand promise? So your brand promise, well, let's say the M&Ms again. So for example, M&Ms, melts in your mouth, not in your hands. That's a pretty definitive brand promise. Now, I don't know if some of you have held M&Ms long enough and they've melted. It still works, but the shell still sort of keeps it in place. And then you just get the, you know, the color of the dye on your hands. But, you know, I love M&Ms. I still eat them anyway. but I love their brand promise because it's stated right into their tagline. All right. So ultimately the strategy of branding is going to be how you position your brand, is knowing how you want to make your audience feel. So that's really one of the primary keys to branding yourself, is knowing exactly how you want your audience to feel. And this again relates to everything in regards to the experience they get. And what's really important too is you need to sort of step back. When you're looking at your customer and defining your customer, and then you're defining your brand and what that means, you have to look at yourself from your customer's point of view. So really, really take the time to think about it. And this is where you could get a lot of people involved in helping you by setting out surveys to get opinions, especially if you're a company that develops new products. Then the best way to develop the product for your customer is to ask them what it is they want. So this is really, really, really key. And this is also the beginning of kind of the engagement that you can give your customers, is that you want to know what they think. Even though you're trying to step back and think how they think, sometimes it's really hard to do that. So you kind of have to ask them. Okay. So now we are going to dive in to the brand narrative. So the brand narrative is really important when we start to put our content out there, that we're very thoughtful about the way that we convey our information. And you want to speak directly to your customer. And this is important because I know that a lot of us, we get software and we have our website and we're using platforms like MailChimp or Constant Contact. And you can create workflows, which if somebody were to say fill out a contact form and send an inquiry from your website, you could get an email, or you can send an email immediately after they send you the email that says, hey, we got your email. Sometimes what happens is we're just kind of setting it up, especially if we're doing it ourselves, and we're not customizing them. And so all those little things and softwares that we utilize that kind of automate the process for us in communicating with our clients, don't forget to customize those, because sometimes they're really sort of, well, it's not like, it's like stock photography. It's just, it's sort of generic, and it might make them sound like, you know, you're a number or something like that. So if you get an email that says, hey, we received your inquiry. We will get back with you as soon as you can. Please reference number, blah, 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 blah. You just sound like another number. I feel like I'm at the DMV and you pick out a little tag number and you wait in line. We don't want that. We want them to feel really welcomed, you know? So this is kind of where brand narrative does begin, because you can start telling your story there if you want to, but to be personable and to talk to them like a person is just going to make a huge difference with their experience from the get-go. So think about that. You are ultimately the spokesperson, the storyteller of your business. You are the narrator because you're the business owner, okay? So you're gonna basically take them through the door into your brand experience. You're welcoming them in, you're walking them through, you're telling them the story, you're telling them where to go, you're telling them how to do it, and then you're sharing the narrative of your message and the story and whatever that is. So keep in mind that with that, you have a lot to say about how you got there. People are not just intrigued about your business, your offer, your services, and your story. They're also intrigued about who you are and why you do it. And so this is going to bring me to the next message, which is knowing your why. And if you've heard my presentations before, I love Simon Sinek. He's one of my favorites. And this message is so relevant because if you don't have this figured out, then people are going to kind of wonder what your purpose is. So when he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply proves what you believe, then that's what's really going to ultimately get people invested in who you are. That you need to be a little bit more about the story too, not just the other heroes and your clients in the story. So he talks about what, how, why versus why, how, and what. So when you're defining what your why is, well, he uses an example of a computer company. So a computer company is basically going to say something like, well, something like, we make great computers, they're beautiful. Well, actually, I think I have an example here. We make computers, they're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. So this is the what, why, or what, how, and why variation. But if we use his example, and I'm using this in terms of his quote, even though this is Apple, he says Apple would say something more like this. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. So here it's the why, how, and what. So he instantly, or not he, I should say, Apple, instantly connects to you with the value, with what it is they believe in and what's really important to them. And well, yeah, you're going to believe that too. So of course you're going to think about that company way more different than if you were just saying it with the what, how, why version. So defining your why and rephrasing it by sharing the insight out of the story, which connects to your audience much more on a deeper level. It's just works better. So think about that when you're actually writing out your brand, what your purpose is. And this basically is what it is. It's your purpose. It's the reason you go to work every day. It's your calling, your beliefs, your values, all that stuff. So this is a good place to begin your narrative because people are always going to want to go to your About Me page. And they do. And if you don't have an About Me page, you need to have an About Me page. About you, you can be about you and about your business. If you want to have two separate pages, that's fine, but they want to know who's behind it. And so you always want to make sure you're telling them that part of the story when they're entering your door because they're intrigued and they're interested. So now we're going to begin to talk about a little bit about a premise statement. A premise statement is breaking down your story into the simplest terms, and it is typically done in one sentence. So in this case, the definition was a previous statement or proposition from which another is inferred or follows as a conclusion. In some cases, if the premise is true, then the conclusion also must be true. So I do have some samples. here's actually the formula. You could actually keep it really, really simple and just have a premise and then a cause or a solution. Or in this case, they're creating more of a story arc. So when some events sparks a character to action, that character acts with deliberate purpose until that action is opposed by an external force, which is leading to some conclusion. So here are some examples. So Nike football. The last game is it's kind of it's like a mini movie. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but you could check it out. It's an animated mini movie, and I really feel like their focus was more for social media marketing and YouTube as their platform, as opposed to using these as commercials. But I don't really watch TV with many commercials, so that could have been commercials too. But it would be an extended story, so it's kind of fun to watch. So it's about an ex-football player which assembles the greatest football stars to battle the clones that have taken over the football world. So it's like they've created these clones to be the football players. So it's kind of like computers playing computers in one respect. So all these ex-football players assemble and battle the clones. It's kind of funny and goofy, but hey, it totally gets the point across. And also there's Dove. Dove has a very simple message, and they've done some really good campaigns. I was going to share a couple of theirs, but I'm just going to share this one. So Dove helps to reunite the a U.S. soldier who has been away for 7 months with his family. And if you've seen this commercial, it's super touching, and at the end you want to cry. It should be a Kleenex commercial, honestly, but I'm not sure where soap comes into the picture, but obviously they use Dove. Anyway, it's a really sweet story. And then Guinness basketball commercial. I love this one. This is really cool. So a group of friends makes a disabled man feel part of the team by playing basketball in wheelchairs. I'm going to see if I can. Barbara, are you there?
I am here.
Can you see my YouTube screen?
No.
Okay.
If you stop sharing and then reshare,
I'm going to have to do that. Yeah. Okay, so here's the Guinness commercial, and I don't know if the sound is going to be that great. I'm going to prop it up as much as I can and get that up there. Okay, here we go.
Friendship. The choices we make reveal the true nature of our character.
Okay, wasn't that cool? I absolutely love that. And I think what's cool about it is that you're kind of surprised at the end when they actually put down their wheelchairs and you realize that only one person is in the wheelchair. It's actually very, very touching. And so I love that one. I think it's really, really great. And so what do you see here that is common? I see that every single one of these stories has a hero. And that's a huge part of what storytelling is. And what you do is you make the actual hero. So it might be, in this case, breaking it down to its simplest terms, but in every single one of them, there's always a hero and some kind of resolution or some kind of solution or conclusion. So when you're writing a premise, you can actually have fun with this. So I'm going to go back one more time to, whoops. Sorry, I have to go through these. I have too much animation. That's probably the problem. Sorry, people. I just really want to ingrain this into your brain. I did actually hit next. I just have this way too. Okay. So this formula. So when you're writing up a premise, you can take your time and actually write several. You know, it's sort of like you can quickly come up with different story arcs that relate to your customer. Now, here's, I think, one of the challenges that we have, and it depends on what your service is and what your product is that we don't know if we're writing the story in relation to using our products or if we're writing a story of people who use the products. And so all those three examples that I just showed you are really about people, these heroes that are using the products, that are living a life. It's not so much about them putting on Nike shoes. It's not about using Dove soap. And it's, you know, in the end, they all come together and it's about friendship and they love Guinness. And so that ties the whole message together. So you can be creative in a way that is not necessarily overly literal to how they're utilizing you as a service provider or your products. And because of this, a great story will always have a hero. And the hero is, well, the hero is the hero. The hero
Gina?
is the one. Yes.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? We have some people who want to touch on what you were just talking about.
Sure.
So the audio cut out when you were explaining about why having a hero made a difference and how to connect that to your business. Could you repeat that, please? And then someone also wanted you to leave your screen up a little longer so they could copy it.
Okay, let me go back to, are we talking about this formula right here?
I don't think so. Allison, could you say specifically which screen it was? Oh, that one. Okay.
Okay. Well, I kind of figured because it's the formula.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure what I said because so when I think the challenge that a lot of us have is we tend to think about telling a story that is about them using our products specifically, and also or our service, basically. And so we don't have to be quite so literal. We could, like these examples that I showed are really about the heroes, real people who at the end of the day may be using the product or service that we're offering, but it's not necessarily a part of the story. Now it can be, don't get me wrong, because I'm going to show you another example in just a moment where it can be about what you're using, you know, about you and how you tie that into your business. But this is just a really good way to sort of brainstorm, you know, what the story could be in relation to your clients or your customers. It's just sort of like a fun way to sort of play out who these real people are. And sometimes it's going back and really looking at who your ideal customer is. There might be a customer that you've already worked with who would be a great story share, and you can just get their permission and say, I'd like to turn your story into a real story. You can keep them anonymous if you want to, and just actually create a story based on who they are. And it might be a problem that they're trying to solve, or it just might be, it depends on your product or service. It might be something that they just can't live without. Like if you're a massage service, this could be the way that they escape from reality or just from being mindful and healthy. So whatever that message I hope that's a good question. That was a really long answer, but I hope that's what she was looking for. Is there anything else, Barbara?
Um, Somebody mentioned that your examples are all men. And so I'm wondering if that's because that's what you're seeing, or if those were the better ones, why you chose those.
It's just what I found. So like, for example, when I found, oh, I have to, let's just go a little further up ahead here. Okay, so when I found these premise statements, it was the samples that I actually found, which were men. And I think it's because these brands were just doing a really good job telling a story, and this was the example of how I found them as a premise. It's not because it's all men, but when I found this picture, this is not a found picture, this is my photograph. And I just wanted to use it. So when I was telling people, what does the hero want? The hero is going to be a man in this case, because I'm showing you a boy. And so that's kind of why I use men. My story is not, and you're going to see my story in a few minutes, and it's basically all women. So, because that's who my target client is. So it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man, the hero is definitely a woman too. It's just really, the examples I showed were all men. I'll just remember that next time. I'm going to have to add another woman in there. So can I go on? Is there any other questions?
That's it for now. Thanks.
Okay, great. So a great story then. So it's really identifying what the hero wants, or who or what is opposing the hero getting what he or she wants. And what will the hero's life look like if he does or does not get what he wants? And so this is the general premise, right? It's just finding out what the hero is searching for. So it is the most, okay, so a great story is most captivating stories are about overcoming the adversity of life. And so what we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail is the story brand framework. And there's so many frameworks out there. There's so many different marketing techniques. And of course, if you are still really struggling with this, work with a great copywriter, because I am not a copywriter, and that's not my strength. So trying to find my own story has been always a challenge. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here sharing this with you today. And I'm going to actually also do a commercial for the brown bag next week, which is all about telling your story in a 30-second elevator pitch. So you have to see Megan Barnhard's brown bag next week, because that's going to be, and she's really good at writing and telling stories as well. So the story brand formula was by Donald Miller, and it's a 7-step framework. And so if you're interested in getting the book, I recommend getting it. And he really breaks it down pretty easily. But I find that it's really, really simple. He also has a program that you can actually go in line and purchase and buy it. It will probably really set you up if you want to do a lot of blogging and tell a lot of stories. But this is generally the whole formula right here. Well, generally. So it is a character who wants something and encounters a problem before they can get it. And at the peak of their despair, a guide steps into their lives, gives them a plan, and calls them to an action. That action helps them avoid failure and ends in a success. Sounds so simple. And yet it can be very challenging to write this into your story. But you know, I'm going to show you a great example. And this example is my story. And I want you to be aware that I am not giving you a commercial, and yet this is kind of a commercial. So these are all my photographs. And right here, I'm showing you as you're just one entrepreneur who needs portraits to sell their personal brand. You have no idea how your brand should be represented in a photograph, and you struggle with the idea of planning an intensive photo shoot. I'm Gina. I specialize in personal branding photography. I make the process fun and easy while capturing the right images to use in your brand story. I help you plan your photo session by creating a blueprint of your brand to identify your persona that resonates with your target audience. Begin the journey of self-discovery by allowing yourself to express your true essence with pure joy, so that you can attract the ideal customers you love to work with. Okay, how was that, everybody? I see all these questions coming in. Is there any questions now, Barbara?
Actually, they're not questions.
Okay.
Letitia said those are great picks. They
Oh,
really
great.
are.
Thank you.
And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Then Susan says, can you ask Gina to go through these story slides again so I can take a quick note? No need to read each one again. She just needs to see them.
Okay.
People are loving this. This is really good.
I could have gone in a lot more detail too, because this is a topic. There's so many different ways that you can tell a story. I'm not saying this is the absolute way, but I think that's what people get most engagement is when you're really talking about the hero in the story itself. And making it visual, and I'm going to have a summary up in just a moment. But so here's the character who wants something, encounters a problem. So if you got that, we can share these slides too. So I can certainly send these to you if anybody wants a copy. You can either let Barbara know, or I can send them to you myself. And so here was my first slide. So this was basically, you know, the character, the problem, the guide with the goofy smile and a camera, and then the plan and the call to action and the solution. So that kind of is how it worked out. So share your story. I mean, find out where your customers are, invite them to be a part of your story by encouraging them to engage with you. This is where you're going to find your most loyal fans. And I didn't go into as much detail as I wanted to about becoming a brand ambassador, but really it's all about engagement. So if you're telling a good enough story, you also want to work with somebody who knows social media marketing and do calls to action within your post itself. So you can be telling a story and you could ask the question, let me know what you think, to get people to comment. Sometimes people are going to be just so absorbed into the story that they're going to say, wow, that's really fantastic, you know, and then start asking the questions like, where do you get that? How do you do that? So, but it's really important too to find out where your customers are, because you don't need to absolutely use every single social media platform. If you find that a challenge, unless you're hiring a marketing company that will do it for you and help you share your story, pick the ones that you absolutely know where your customers are, and use those. And Instagram is obviously has been like the newest and most used. Probably as much as Facebook. Facebook is still probably the number one. But with Instagram, it's all about stories and being visual. So you have to sort of pull that story into a visual narrative. And I think that's one of the reasons why I help people in that sense, because I can help them with the visual story of it as well. And so to sum that up in summary, so always make your customer the hero and try to create an ongoing story arc. So for example, the Nike one, the football heroes, those who are battling the clones, that's that might have a solution you for a little bit longer. So try to think about that and get creative with it. If Dove is reuniting soldiers, there could be, with their families, there could be multiple stories that are about them reuniting them and connecting that emotional level. And then write your values as part of your brand story, because this inevitably is what is going to really connect them to you and resonate with you, because their story, their values are basically your values as well, or your values are their values as well. And then finally, illustrate your stories. And I'm not saying this because you need to have great photographs that I would take, but you could illustrate your story in many, many ways, with graphics, with stock photography, with good professional photography that makes it more memorable, and it actually helps evoke more of the emotion. Because if I were just showing you my narrative just a little while ago without the photographs, it would totally not be as dynamic. And it makes you memorize it, or not only remember it more, but it actually made you feel something, which is great that you were all acknowledging that. Thank you, I appreciate that. And so that's really it. And how can I help you? Well, I can help you by just discovering how you can strengthen your brand and position it towards your ideal customers, which means you can schedule a complimentary strategy session with me. And I'll talk a little bit more about how your brand can be worked through and you can make a better impression. But if not, we can also meet through Mission Community Services. And through Mission Community Services, I can help you a little bit about your brand strategy, as well as help you set up a website. I can help you get your website on Google, Google My Business, which is a great way to also share your stories. It's not considered necessarily a social media platform, but it's going to help with your search engine optimization, and it can also get people to come back to your website. So with that, does anybody have any additional questions? Because I see them.
Megan said, great job. Thank you, Megan. Susan wants to
you.
know, can Gina please explain what a story arc means again? Audio cut out. Also, I'd love a copy of the slides. We have several people who want the slides.
So the story arc is basically any kind of person who is trying to overcome something and overcome the adversity. So there's always going to be a challenge. So the story arc is basically, sorry. Is basically this. It's has a flow. So the character has a problem, meets a guide, has a plan, calls them to an action to avoid failure and end in success. So that's the entire arc of the story. So if you can pull your client, your story into this kind of formula, this methodology, it's going to have a better flow to the story, and people are going to want to continue to engage it throughout, because everybody relates to this kind of story. They just, this is our lives. We are drama queens, big time. We do. And this is why we love movies. Almost every single movie will have this story arc, every single one. In fact, if you read the book Story Brand, they're going to give you lots of examples of Star Wars that uses this story arc, and other movies as well. So that's kind of in general what the story arc is. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any.
All
Just
right.
looking to see if somebody's a slow typist. I don't think so. I would be.
It's so weird because when I have my screen on full screen, I can't see my mouse. And so it's really hard for me to go back until I want to stop share. So if there's no other questions, then I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
All righty, and I am sharing mine.
If I can find it. There we go.
All right. Thank you, Gina. You really highlighted the emotional, cultural, and psychological components in creating a brand strategy. and it looks like people really were engaged, so that's great. For those of you who want more, please contact us for a no-cost consultation with Gina. We have some upcoming webinars you may be interested in. Next Wednesday, July 29th, we have one on nailing your elevator pitch that Gina mentioned. We also have a webinar on government certifications for women-owned businesses on August 7th, and one on thriving in the COVID roller coaster, where we will discuss curbside pickup, e-commerce, and building relationships. That one is on Friday the 14th. We invite you to visit our website to register. Should you need more consultation or entrepreneurial training, we're here for you. Thanks for attending. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.